My name is Janet, and this is the story of how I served the coldest dish of revenge at what was supposed to be the happiest day of my former best friend's life. It all started 3 years ago when I was engaged to Derek, the man I thought I would spend the rest of my life with. We had been together for 4 years, and I was completely head over heels in love with him. He was charming, successful, and had this way of making me feel like I was the only woman in the world who mattered to him. My best friend since college, Melissa, was always around. The three of us were inseparable. She was my maid of honor, my confidant, and the person I trusted most in the world after Derek. We would spend hours planning my wedding, talking about dresses, venues, and all the little details that would make my special day perfect. I should have noticed the signs earlier. The way Melissa would always find excuses to come over when Derek was home. How she would dress up more when she knew he would be around. The lingering glances and the way she would laugh just a little too hard at his jokes. But I was blinded by trust and love. I could not imagine that the two people I cared about most would ever betray me. The truth came crashing down on a rainy Thursday evening in October. I had been working late at my photography studio, editing photos from a recent wedding shoot. My business, Captured Moments Photography, was finally taking off after years of hard work. And I was excited to share the good news with Derek. I decided to surprise him at his apartment with his favorite takeout from the Italian place downtown. I used my key to let myself in, calling out his name as I entered. The apartment was dimly lit, and I could hear soft music playing from the bedroom. I smiled, thinking he was being romantic, maybe planning a surprise for me. I quietly made my way toward the bedroom, planning to surprise him instead. What I saw through the crack in the bedroom door shattered my world completely. Derek and Melissa were tangled together in his bed, completely lost in each other. The way he was holding her, kissing her, touching her. It was exactly how he used to be with me. But there was something different, something more passionate and desperate about it. As if they had been holding back for a long time and finally could not resist anymore. I stood there frozen, watching the two people I loved most in the world betray me in the most intimate way possible. My heart felt like it was being ripped out of my chest. My hands were shaking so badly that I dropped the bag of food, and the sound made them both freeze. Melissa looked toward the door and saw me standing there. Her face went completely white, and she pushed Derek away from her. He turned around, and when he saw me, I watched as guilt, shame, and something else, relief, flashed across his face. "Janet," he started, but I could not listen. I turned around and ran out of the apartment, ignoring their calls behind me. I drove home in a complete daze, my mind unable to process what I had just witnessed. When I finally made it to my apartment, I collapsed on my couch and cried harder than I had ever cried in my life. The betrayal cut so deep that I felt physically sick. The next few days were a blur of confrontations, tears, and lies. Derek tried to explain that what I saw was not what it looked like, which was laughable considering what I had witnessed. Melissa called me dozens of times, leaving voicemails full of apologies and excuses. She claimed it was a mistake, that they were drunk, that it would never happen again. But I knew better. The way they looked at each other, the comfort they had with each other's bodies. This was not a one-time mistake. This had been going on for months, maybe even longer. I called off my engagement immediately. Derek tried to fight for me, showing up at my apartment with flowers and promises that meant nothing anymore. But I was done. I could not look at him without seeing him with Melissa. Every memory we had together was now tainted with the knowledge that he had been betraying me the entire time. The worst part was not just losing Derek, it was losing Melissa too. She had been my best friend for over 8 years. We had been through everything together. College heartbreaks, family drama, career struggles. I had trusted her with my deepest secrets, my fears, my dreams. And she had thrown it all away for a man. I spent the next few months rebuilding my life. I threw myself into my photography business, taking on more clients and working longer hours. It was the only thing that kept me from thinking about the betrayal constantly. My friends and family were incredibly supportive, but I felt like a piece of me had died. Then, exactly 1 year after I caught them together, Melissa called me. I had blocked her number, but she called from her mother's phone. I almost hung up when I heard her voice, but something made me listen. "Janet, please hear me out," she said, her voice shaking. "I know you hate me, And you have every right to. What I did was unforgivable. But I need you to know that Derek and I are getting married. The words hit me like a physical blow. Even though I had expected this, hearing it out loud made it real in a way that was almost unbearable. I wanted you to hear it from me before you found out another way, she continued. And I know this is going to sound crazy, but I want to ask you something. I waited, unable to speak. I want you to be our wedding photographer. I nearly dropped the phone. The audacity of this request was so overwhelming that I actually laughed, a bitter, harsh sound that surprised even me. Are you completely insane? I finally managed to say. I know how it sounds, Melissa said quickly. But hear me out. Your work is incredible. You are the best photographer I know, and I have always dreamed of having you photograph my wedding. Plus, I thought maybe this could be a way for us to start healing. A way to move forward. You want me to photograph your wedding to the man you stole from me? I said slowly, making sure I understood correctly. Derek and I were meant to be together, Janet. I know that is hard to hear, but we both felt it from the beginning. We tried to fight it because we did not want to hurt you, but love is not something you can control. The sheer manipulation in her words made me sick. They had tried to fight it. They had not wanted to hurt me? What a load of garbage. If they had not wanted to hurt me, they would not have betrayed me in the first place. But as I listened to her continue to justify their actions and talk about their upcoming wedding, something shifted inside me. The crushing sadness and heartbreak I had been carrying for over a year began to transform into something else entirely. Cold, calculated anger. An idea began to form in my mind. A terrible, beautiful idea that made my heart race with possibility. When is the wedding? I asked calmly. June 15th. It is going to be at the Riverside Country Club. Nothing too big, just close family and friends. About 80 people. I knew the venue well. I had photographed several weddings there. It was expensive, elegant, and very exclusive. Of course they would choose somewhere impressive to show off their perfect love story. And you want me to photograph it, I said. Yes. I will pay you whatever you want. Money is not an issue. Please, Janet. I miss you so much. I know we can never go back to the way things were, but maybe we can find a way to be friends again. Friends. She actually thought we could be friends after what she had done to me. The delusion was almost impressive. I need to think about it, I said finally. Really? You will consider it. The hope in her voice almost made me feel guilty for what I was planning. Almost. I will call you back in a few days with my answer. I hung up the phone and sat in my apartment, my mind racing. Every logical part of me said to refuse and block her number permanently. But the darker part of me, the part that had been burning with rage and humiliation for over a year, saw an opportunity that was too perfect to pass up. I spent the next 3 days researching, planning, and preparing. I called Melissa back and told her I would photograph her wedding for $5,000, double my usual rate. She agreed immediately without even trying to negotiate, which told me exactly how guilty she felt and how much she wanted me there. Over the next few months, I played the part of the gracious, forgiving friend perfectly. I met with them several times to discuss the wedding photography timeline and shot list. I was professional, friendly, and showed no signs of the rage burning inside me. Derek was clearly uncomfortable during these meetings. He could barely look me in the eye and seemed shocked that I was willing to photograph their wedding. But Melissa was over the moon. She kept talking about how this proved that true friendship could overcome anything, and how she knew we were meant to be in each other's lives forever. The irony was not lost on me. During our meetings, I learned everything I needed to know about their relationship and their wedding plans. Melissa loved to talk, and she unknowingly gave me all the ammunition I would need for my revenge. I learned that Derek had been cheating on me with Melissa for 8 months before I caught them. 8 months of lies, deceit, and betrayal while I planned our future together. I learned that they had been meeting at hotels, at her apartment when I was working, and even in our bed when I was out of town for photography shoots. I learned that Derek had told Melissa he was going to break up with me weeks before I caught them. But he kept putting it off because he did not want to deal with the confrontation. He was planning to wait until after our wedding to leave me because it would be easier than calling off the engagement. I learned that they had been laughing about me behind my back, calling me naive and clueless for not figuring out what was happening right under my nose. Every revelation made my blood boil. But I kept my expression neutral and supportive. I even managed to congratulate them on finding true love, though the words tasted like poison in my mouth. As the wedding day approached, I finalized my plan. It was risky, but if executed properly, it would be absolutely devastating. I had learned a few things about Derek during our 4 years together, secrets that he had shared with me in confidence. Secrets that would destroy not just his marriage, but his reputation and possibly his career. The wedding day dawned bright and beautiful. It was a perfect June morning with clear skies and a gentle breeze. The Riverside Country Club looked absolutely stunning, with white flowers and elegant decorations everywhere. It really was going to be a beautiful wedding, at least for the first part. I arrived early to set up my equipment and scout the best locations for photos. The bridal party was getting ready in the club's luxurious suite upstairs, and I could hear laughter and excitement echoing through the halls. Melissa looked absolutely radiant in her wedding dress. It was a gorgeous designer gown that probably cost more than most people's cars. Her hair and makeup were flawless, and she was glowing with happiness. For a moment, I almost felt bad for what I was about to do. Almost. "Janet, you look amazing," she said when she saw me. "Thank you so much for being here. This means everything to me." She hugged me tightly, and I could smell her expensive perfume and feel the silk of her dress against my cheek. She had no idea that in a few hours, this would be the worst day of her life. "Of course," I said, hugging her back. I would not miss it for the world. I spent the morning taking beautiful getting-ready photos, capturing every moment of Melissa's preparation. The bridesmaids were all having a wonderful time, drinking champagne and laughing. Everything was perfect and joyful. Meanwhile, Derek was getting ready with his groomsmen in another part of the club. When I went to photograph them, he seemed nervous but happy. He kept checking his phone and adjusting his tie, clearly feeling the weight of the day. "Nervous?" I asked him as I snapped photos. "A little," he admitted. "But good nervous, you know? I am marrying the love of my life today." The love of his life. The woman he had cheated on me with for 8 months while telling me he loved me every single day. The audacity was breathtaking. "That is wonderful," I said, smiling behind my camera. "I am sure it will be a day you will never forget." The ceremony was scheduled for 4 o'clock, with cocktail hour immediately following and dinner at 6. I had planned my revenge for right before dinner, when all the guests would be gathered together, and in the perfect mood to hear what I had to say. The ceremony itself was beautiful. Melissa walked down the aisle looking like a princess, and Derek's face lit up when he saw her. They exchanged heartfelt vows that talked about true love, trust, and commitment. Words that made me sick considering how their relationship had started. I photographed every moment, getting perfect shots of their kiss, the ring exchange, and their walk back down the aisle as husband and wife. To everyone watching, including myself through the camera lens, they looked like the perfect couple. During cocktail hour, I mingled with the guests while taking candid photos. Many people came up to me to comment on how mature and gracious I was being by photographing my ex-fiancé's wedding. They had no idea what was coming. I spotted Derek's boss, Mr. Harrison, from the law firm where Derek worked. Derek had always been desperate to impress him and make partners someday. Mr. Harrison was a strict, old-fashioned man who valued integrity and moral character above everything else. I also noticed Melissa's grandmother, a sweet elderly woman who had helped raise Melissa and was very religious. Melissa worshipped her grandmother and would be devastated to disappoint her. Both of these people would be key to the effectiveness of my revenge. As dinner time approached, the wedding coordinator gathered everyone to move into the main dining room. The room was gorgeous, with round tables covered in white linens, beautiful centerpieces, and soft lighting that created the perfect romantic atmosphere. I had volunteered to give a toast during dinner, which Melissa had been thrilled about. She thought it was another sign of my forgiveness and maturity. The poor, deluded woman had no idea what she had agreed to. Derek and Melissa sat at the head table, looking blissfully happy as they fed each other bites of their salad course. Their families sat nearby, beaming with pride and joy. The whole room was filled with love, laughter, and celebration. I waited until everyone had finished their main course, and the room was relaxed and happy. The perfect moment had arrived. I stood up and gently tapped my champagne glass with a fork, getting everyone's attention. The room quieted down, and all eyes turned to me. "Hello everyone," I said, my voice carrying clearly across the room. "For those of you who do not know me, I am Janet, the wedding photographer. But I am also someone who has known Derek and Melissa for a very long time." There were some smiles and nods from the guests. Derek and Melissa were both looking at me expectantly, clearly pleased that their photographer was taking such a personal interest in their celebration. I wanted to take a moment to share some thoughts about the happy couple and their beautiful love story. I continued, my voice warm and congratulatory. Melissa clasped her hands together and smiled at me with genuine affection. She was so trusting, so completely unprepared for what was about to happen. "Derek and Melissa's relationship is truly unique," I said. "You see, their love story began while Derek was engaged to someone else. To me, actually." The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees instantly. The smiles began to fade from people's faces as they processed what I had just said. "Now I know what you are all thinking," I continued, my voice still pleasant and conversational. "These things happen, right? People fall in love, relationships end, new ones begin. It is all very natural and normal." Derek's face had gone completely white. He was staring at me with a look of absolute horror, finally understanding what was happening. Melissa looked confused, as if she could not quite believe what she was hearing. But what makes Derek and Melissa's love story so special is the way it unfolded. You see, they managed to conduct their passionate romance for 8 whole months while Derek was still engaged to me. 8 months of secret meetings, stolen kisses, and intimate encounters, all while Derek was telling me he loved me and we were planning our wedding together. Gasps echoed around the room. Several guests were looking back and forth between me and the head table in shock. Derek's parents looked absolutely mortified, while Melissa's family appeared stunned. "But wait, it gets even better," I said, my voice taking on a slightly harder edge. "Because Derek did not just cheat on me with my best friend. Oh no, that would be too simple. Derek also has some other interesting secrets that I think his new bride should know about." "Janet, stop," Derek said, his voice barely above a whisper. But it was too late. I was just getting started. "For instance, did you know that Derek has been stealing money from his law firm's client trust account for over 2 years? I asked the room conversationally. He has been skimming small amounts from multiple accounts, thinking no one would notice. He told me all about it when we were together, laughing about how easy it was to fool his colleagues." Mr. Harrison's face went bright red, and he started to stand up from his chair. This was information that could destroy Derek's career and possibly land him in prison. "And Melissa, sweetheart," I said, turning to address the bride directly. "Did Derek ever mention his little gambling problem? Or the fact that he owes over $50,000 to some very unpleasant people? That is actually why he was stealing from the law firm, to pay off his debts." Melissa's mouth had fallen open, and she was staring at Derek with a look of complete shock. He was frantically shaking his head, trying to deny everything, but his guilty expression spoke volumes. "Oh, and there is one more tiny detail that I think everyone should know," I said, my voice now dripping with false sweetness. "Derek, would you like to tell your beautiful new wife about Amanda? Or should I?" The name hit Derek like a physical blow. He actually flinched and grabbed the edge of the table to steady himself. "Amanda is Derek's other girlfriend," I explained to the horrified audience. "They have been seeing each other for about 6 months now. Apparently, cheating on me with Melissa was not enough. He needed 2 affairs running simultaneously. I have photos on my phone of Derek and Amanda together last week if anyone would like to see them." The room erupted. People were shouting, gasping, and standing up from their chairs. Melissa let out a sound that was somewhere between a scream and a sob. Derek's boss was yelling something about criminal charges and disbarment. Melissa's grandmother looked like she might faint. But I was not finished yet. "I just want to take a moment to thank Derek and Melissa for this opportunity," I said, raising my champagne glass. "You see, when Melissa called me to ask if I would photograph their wedding, I thought it was the most ridiculous request I had ever heard. But then I realized what a perfect gift they were giving me. the chance to expose their lies and betrayal in front of everyone they care about most. Melissa was now sobbing uncontrollably, her perfect makeup running down her face in black streaks. Her beautiful wedding dress seemed to mock her as she sat there in ruins. "So here is to Derek and Melissa," I said, taking a sip of champagne. "May your marriage be built on the same foundation of lies, deceit, and betrayal that brought you together. And may you both get exactly what you deserve." I set down my glass, picked up my camera bag, and walked calmly toward the exit. Behind me, the room had dissolved into complete chaos. Guests were shouting, families were arguing, and Derek was desperately trying to explain himself to anyone who would listen. As I reached the door, I turned back for one final look. Derek was pleading with his boss, who was already on his phone, probably calling the police. Melissa was surrounded by her bridesmaids, who were trying to comfort her while she hyperventilated in her ruined wedding dress. It was absolutely perfect. I walked out of the Riverside Country Club and got into my car, feeling lighter than I had in over a year. The weight of betrayal and humiliation that I had been carrying was finally gone, replaced by a deep sense of satisfaction and justice. Over the next few weeks, the fallout from the wedding was everything I had hoped for and more. Derek was arrested for embezzlement and theft. The law firm fired him immediately and cooperated fully with the police investigation. His stealing had been even more extensive than I had revealed at the wedding, and he was looking at serious prison time. Melissa's family was so humiliated by the public spectacle that they moved to another state. Her grandmother, who had been so proud of her, cut off all contact and wrote Melissa out of her will. The marriage was annulled within a month when Melissa discovered even more evidence of Derek's cheating and lying. Amanda, the other girlfriend, came forward after the wedding disaster made local news. She had no idea Derek was married and engaged to other women simultaneously. She provided the police with additional evidence of his criminal activities and testified against him at his trial. Derek was eventually sentenced to 4 years in prison and ordered to pay full restitution to the law firm and their clients. His reputation was completely destroyed, and he would never practice law again. Melissa tried to reach out to me several times after the wedding, begging for forgiveness and claiming she had no idea about Derek's other crimes. But I was done with her forever. She had made her choice when she betrayed our friendship, and she had to live with the consequences. As for me, my photography business exploded after the wedding incident became local legend. People were fascinated by the story of the photographer who exposed the cheating couple at their own wedding. I started getting calls from all over the state from people who wanted me to photograph their events. I also started getting calls from other people who had been betrayed and wanted advice on getting revenge. I began offering a special service for people in similar situations, gathering evidence of infidelity and other crimes to be revealed at the perfect moment for maximum impact. My business became known as Captured Moments Photography, where truth comes to light. It was incredibly satisfying to help other people get justice after being betrayed by those they trusted most. But the most satisfying part of the whole experience was not the revenge itself. It was the knowledge that I had taken back my power. For over a year, I had felt like a victim. Derek and Melissa had made me feel weak, naive, and foolish. They had thought they could betray me and get away with it, maybe even have me participate in celebrating their betrayal. They were wrong. I had turned their moment of triumph into their downfall. I had used their own arrogance and cruelty against them. And I had done it all while maintaining my dignity and telling nothing but the truth. The best revenge really is a dish served cold, and I had served it at the perfect temperature. Looking back now, 3 years later, I regret nothing. Derek and Melissa got exactly what they deserved. Their betrayal taught me that I am stronger than I ever imagined, and that sometimes good people have to be willing to fight back against those who would take advantage of their kindness. I am now happily married to a wonderful man who would never dream of betraying me the way Derek did. We met at a wedding I was photographing, and he was immediately intrigued by my story and my strength. He loves that I am not someone who will be walked on or taken advantage of. My business continues to thrive, and I have helped dozens of other betrayed partners get their own perfect revenge. There is something deeply satisfying about turning the tables on cheaters and liars, about making sure that actions have consequences. Derek is still in prison, working in the kitchen and probably regretting every choice that led him there. Melissa works at a small office in another state, keeping a low profile and trying to rebuild her reputation. She never married again. As for me, I learned that sometimes the best thing you can do when someone betrays you is not to just move on and forgive. Sometimes the best thing you can do is make sure they face the full consequences of their actions. And sometimes, if you are very lucky and very smart, you get the chance to serve those consequences personally. That is exactly what I did, and I have never been prouder of anything in my life. The moral of this story is simple. If you are going to betray someone who trusts you, you better make sure they do not have access to all your secrets and a platform to share them with everyone you care about. Because karma might just show up in the form of a very skilled photographer with a microphone and a room full of your friends and family. And when karma comes calling, you better be ready to pay the price. If you enjoyed this story of perfect revenge and want to see more tales of betrayal, karma, and justice served cold, make sure to subscribe to Revenge Janet. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell, so you never miss a story about cheaters getting exactly what they deserve. Share this video with anyone who believes that actions should have consequences, and let me know in the comments what kind of revenge story you would like to hear next. Remember, at Revenge Janet, we believe that the truth always comes to light. Sometimes it just needs a little help getting there. Until next time, keep believing in karma. And remember that justice is always worth the wait.